Hi, I'm Carissa. I explain it all, and on this channel I talk a lot about shadow work, but I have yet to make a video defining shadow work. So the shadow, what is the shadow? Well, the shadow is the unconscious. So if you imagine you have your conscious mind, you're walking through life, you're doing your things, you're going to your job, you're going to school, you're interacting with your family, that's the conscious mind aware of what's going on. The subconscious or the unconscious then, of course, is going to be the internal world, the things that we are not aware of. So the parts of us that exist, that are here, that are functioning in the everyday world that we are not aware of. Now, the idea is to have all parts of us that we're aware of, and we're aware of our emotions, and we're aware of our triggers, we're aware of old stories, narratives, beliefs, personality traits, just all these things. We're very self-aware so that when we move through the world, we can respond to things rather than react to them. So when we have self-awareness, we're able to stay calm, present, see things, people, events, situations objectively. But when we have a lot of things in the subconscious that we are not aware of, when we are not self-aware of these things, they are in the shadow. And whether we like it or not, what we are not aware of, what's in the shadow, is just as much a part of ourselves than the conscious part, the part of us that's not in the shadow, that's in the light, I guess, in the conscious mind. And when the shadow is ruling our thoughts and our emotions and our actions just as much as the conscious mind, because we're unaware of the shadow and its influence on us, we end up projecting onto relationships. We end up having more arguments, more conflicts at work, with people in our lives. We tend to have a lot of limiting beliefs, things that keep us in a state of always self-doubting, worrying. We may struggle with low self-esteem, low self-confidence, low discipline, like self-discipline to do the things that we need to do. We may tend to self-sabotage a lot. Doing shadow work essentially lets us become aware of what's in the shadow. And the reason why it's in the shadow in the first place, right? Because why would things be in the shadow? Why would we have a shadow? Why not just be consciously aware of all things? Well, what's in the shadow is in the shadow because we tend to either hide or deny or suppress these things. And why do we do that? Well, typically what's in the shadow are the parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at. So the important thing to remember is that everything is us. So whether it's in the conscious mind or the subconscious mind, whether it's in the light or the shadow, it's all us. So it's all deserving of acceptance. But somewhere along the way, when we were very young, we were like all conscious, right? Like maybe not self-aware, but we were all of consciousness, all of our consciousness. Somewhere along the way, we got told through people's behaviors or their reactions to us that there were parts of us that were unacceptable, unlovable, unworthy, just all these things where there's parts of you that are not acceptable, and your behavior or your way of being will not be accepted by the people in your life. And so rather than coping with this really, really hard feeling of this part of me that's going to end up in the shadow, this part of me is true to who I am, but other people can't accept that or don't like that about me, rather than holding on to that consciously and dealing with that pain every single day, we did a really, really smart thing for being able to move forward in life. We pushed it to the subconscious. We began to suppress it. And the reason why I say smart thing is because it helped us move forward. That's what you needed to do back then, and there's nothing wrong with it. So a lot of times people think we do shadow work because there's something wrong with us, we didn't heal right, there's something bad within us, and that's just not the case. The shadow is just the parts of us that are begging to be loved, that are us, uniquely us, especially us, and it just wants to be seen. The thing is, when you take the light of your conscious mind and shine it into the shadow of the subconscious, it's no longer in the shadows, it becomes conscious. And then you move through the process of integration and healing, which is to move that part that has now become conscious into and integrating with the rest of your personality. And that's essentially what shadow work is. But we have to do a process to become aware of what's in the shadow, right? How do you become aware of what you're not aware of? And so then that's the process of shadow work. So it's important to note right here too, is that everything that's in the shadow isn't necessarily bad or evil. People may have projected that they were bad or evil, but if it's you, it's you. It's all of you. And it's not good or bad. It's not good or evil. It just is. And so part of your work in doing shadow work is coming to your own realizations of the judgments that you've had against parts of yourselves that are keeping you from engaging with all parts of yourself. And again, no judgment. Like, that's like, judgment is like literally the opposite direction of what you want to go in when you're doing shadow work. Judgment and shame and guilt and embarrassment, these are kind of like overlay emotions. I would almost call them like the trapdoor to the basement of the subconscious. So when you start to feel judgment, guilt, regret, frustration, shame, embarrassment, all of these things are actually a trapdoor. Like, you're getting close. You're getting close to the shadow. And this is why people are like, shadow work is really hard, because all that good stuff under there, all that, those parts of you that are just begging to be seen and loved and like accepted and integrated back into you, those all lie just beyond that trapdoor of all of those feelings that don't feel good. And so shadow work is not just becoming aware. If you were just becoming consciously aware, it wouldn't really hurt. It's the fact that you're having to be consciously aware. You're having to grieve the fact that part of you was separated from you anyways. You're having to grieve the original events that happened that caused that separation. And then you're having to deal with these really difficult emotions that became the trapdoor to keep that subconscious shadow stuff in the shadows. So shadow work is hard, and it is not for the faint of heart. But why should you do it? Like, why is it worth it? Well, as someone who struggled with very low self-esteem, struggled with really, really intense perfectionism, a very, very, very harsh inner critic, I've been doing shadow work for the last 7 years, and I can tell you from personal experience, I feel more peaceful because of doing it. I feel more centered. I feel less reactive to life and more responsive. I'm able to see situations beyond my own illusions and judgments and critiques and idealism, and be able to see things as they are and love them anyways. And when you come from that perspective, you're able to deal with things. You're able to take life in stride. You're able to not freak out over little things and big things, and that's huge. You become the person that is able to move through life not just doing it, but living it, because you're not afraid to feel. And even the bad things don't feel so bad. You may feel them intensely, but you don't judge them as bad. There's a difference. And when you learn to deal with difficult emotions because you're doing the emotional healing, that's part of shadow work, you are able to let life move through you and also move through life. It's this crazy like perception and creation process that is truly living rather than escaping or just trying to pursue things in order to make yourself feel better. It just like grounds you into life and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It allows you to have more healthy relationships. You have a healthier sense of love for yourself. And self-love isn't just like, Fridays where you pamper yourself and like do a facial and get a massage and all that, which is self-loving. No harsh. I'm not giving any judgment to that. I do the same thing and I love it. I love massages. But self-love is so much more than that. It is loving yourself even when you absolutely don't want to love yourself. And shadow work really helps you do that. So, how do you do shadow work then? I'm going to list out 5 different ways, and then I will tell you the way that I did most of mine. I'll put them up on the screen over here. So 1, you can journal. There are tons of journal prompts out there. If you just do a quick Google search, if you look on Pinterest, there's amazing shadow work journal prompts out there. Just wonderful. So you can find them out there. And they're essentially going to ask you things like, what about this triggered you? What do I judge most harshly about others? What do I judge most harshly about myself? A lot of shadow work is journaling. It's self-reflection. That is what shadow work is becoming aware of the self. What you're going to become aware of as you journal is essentially like, why am I getting triggered? What emotions are coming up for me? What does this emotion mean when I feel it in my body? Essentially, you're resensitizing to your emotions. You're resensitizing to narratives that you use to move through the world. A lot of us have beliefs that helped us at one time get through a situation, but if they are not like empowering, like if those beliefs are not empowering about yourself or empowering about others, they are a limiting belief. There's a limitation to it, and it's keeping you stuck in a repeating behavior, some kind of pattern that is keeping you stuck and unable to move forward in a way that is healthier or feels better. And so that's what journaling helps you through. So likewise, besides journaling, you can also, number 2, see a therapist. A therapist is going to act as that person. Instead of the writing, you're going to be talking through things. And writing and talking have very different, they use different parts of the brain. And so you can actually access different insights, whether you're journaling versus writing. And so seeing a therapist can be very helpful because you're using speech to communicate how you think and how you feel. And then you've got someone there that's trained to look for triggers and self-limiting beliefs and narratives and patterns, and like they are aware of all the things in psychology. And so you don't have to then take your journal questions and go research everything. That's the way I did it. But like you don't have to do all that hard work. You can have someone there who is already trained in all this stuff and can be that person for you, that guidance to that maybe we should look into this, maybe we should ask these questions. And they also provide a safe space. That's the thing. If you're trying to do shadow work on your own, which you can, and I did, but if you're trying to do shadow work on your own, what you're having to do is be your absolute best friend, most unconditionally loving self to you when you feel the exact opposite towards yourself. So you may be feeling intense self-hate, self-critique, and now you have to be the person that loves you the most and holds unconditional space and no judgment. And that is very, very hard to do. Ultimately, hopefully that is the goal at the end of therapy. But with a therapist, they are someone that's there holding that third party space for you and able to hold that unconditional presence when you absolutely don't feel that way yourself. And so they're able to do that and provide that for you until you can learn to do that for yourself as you go through that process. So doing shadow work, it is possible to do it by yourself, but it is very hard, and you don't have to do it on your own. There are so many resources out there. So therapists can be really good help too. So 3 is inner child work and visualization. So part of shadow work, there's like an umbrella of shadow work, right? Shadow work encompasses the subconscious. Within the work of understanding the subconscious comes several different areas of interest. One is emotional healing. So learning to recognize your emotions first and foremost, learning to recognize their somatic essence within your body. What does it feel like when my throat closes up? What does it feel like when my heart's pounding super fast? What does it mean when I feel that white hot surge of adrenaline through my body? What happens when I'm getting this massive pounding headache and feel tight up in my head and in the back of my shoulders? You're becoming aware of what emotion feels like as it runs its course through you. Emotion is energy in motion. What does energy feel like as it moves through your body? And resensitizing yourself to your emotion, which can be a hurdle in and of itself. If we have stuff in the shadow, we have learned to repress emotion. Now you're having to resensitize to the emotion and resensitize to all that pain surrounding that particular emotion. I may be smiling, but it's hard work. Once you've resensitized to it, now it's learning the definition of these emotions. What does anger mean? What does sadness mean? And you may think like, well, okay, well, anger means I'm mad. Well, but anger also means a boundary has been crossed. Something has been taken from you. Anger is coming up to let you know your needs are not being met. And we need to find out why and how to resolve this. And there are ways to do it in healthy ways and ways that are not so healthy. When you start to learn to interpret emotions as there's definitions attached to them, now you're becoming like really, really self-aware, not only of how the energy is moving through you, but what does it mean? What is it telling you that you need to do to help move yourself forward through this in a healthy way? And then 3, you're learning how to do it in a healthy way. So you're creating new habits and ways of being that help you to stay in a more empowered, resonant state without ignoring and denying how you feel. So you can actually totally feel life fully and also not be stuck or paralyzed or frustrated because you're feeling all these feelings. So you're actually like finally living life. You're feeling the actual livingness of life and not being hampered or stopped down by it. It's very, very powerful stuff. So within that umbrella, we have emotional healing. We also have reparenting / inner child work. Inner child work is becoming aware of this part of us. If we think back to that conscious and subconscious different parts of us within the subconscious typically is the inner child, the part of us when we were a child that wanted to do things our way because it was uniquely us or just felt right. And for whatever reason, we were told it's not okay to do that or to feel that way or to act that way or to talk that way or whatever we learned, right? So the inner child is still you. Like, you still really want to actually act that way in the world. And so inner child work is becoming aware of the child aspect of yourself, allowing it to have creative or playful or expressive outlets for its voice. It's a part of you. It has a voice. It wants to be heard. When you're doing shadow work, it's becoming aware of the inner child and what it wants. And a little bit of that kind of reparenting, learning how to be the parent aspect of yourself, help yourself move through the world in a way that is healthy and engaging and allows you to pay your bills and have healthy relationships without totally going, the child self that wants to stay home and not go to work. Of course, that's what we all want, right? But is able to still feel like the inner child gets to express and play and finds the joy in life, even if we have to go to a job and pay bills. So it's reparenting is learning how to help yourself move forward healthily in the world, and so that will also entail being able to help yourself move through frustrating times. If you're trying to learn something and you just can't, instead of giving up, you are able to parent your child self and be like, I believe in you, I trust you, let's find another way. That's part of reparenting, right? Or holding unconditional space for yourself when you're going through a really difficult emotion without judging itself. That's reparenting yourself, and it's reparenting your inner child. And inner child work is becoming aware of the part of you that genuinely feels these really tough things and not judging yourself for it and allowing it to express and to play and to feel. I mean, I feel like that's part of the inner child, is like that so many of us have had to repress, is what we feel. And you feel what you feel and you can't deny what you can't deny what you feel. But inner child work is becoming aware of how you deny what you feel and to release those expectations that you have to deny what you feel. You can feel what you feel and you can still be an adult and move through the world in a healthy way, right? So within that umbrella of shadow work, we have the emotional healing, we have the reparenting, we have the inner child work, and then the last bit, I'm sure there's more, but the main bit that I think of is the limiting beliefs. And so limiting beliefs would be like, I'm not worthy of love or of healthy relationships, or just things just don't work out for me. Any of those kinds of things. We kind of brought them into our narrative because that's the way life felt when we were growing up. But the really cool thing about beliefs is that there's no inherent truth to it. It's true because you lived it. And so now you've used that as proof that that is what it is. But the really, really cool thing that we know, like through psychology and stuff, I know that was super like elaborate, like my proof of evidence of that, is that you can change beliefs. Beliefs are just stories that you keep repeating based off of memories that you have. But what about that person over there who doesn't have the same memories? They didn't create the same stories, they don't have the same beliefs. And so they live a different life. A different kind of life. They get different things than you do. So you can actually, by becoming aware of the beliefs that are in the subconscious, you can change your life because you change the stories and you choose to not let those memories have so much hold and power over you. This is one of my favorite parts of shadow work. I mean, it all is. I freaking love shadow work. But like, this is one of my favorite parts because it shifts your life so much. All the other things, the inner child work, the reparenting, the emotional healing, all of that stuff helps you to shift and change, it helps you to shift your awareness of self and helps you to heal so that you are a one cohesive, integrated, embodied individual who feels your feelings, who moves forward through life empowered. It helps to shift and change that. It basically helps you to become the whole version of you again, right? It's not like you're becoming a new you, you're becoming all of you again now as an adult. And the beliefs part helps you to shift direction and course in life. And so beliefs are like my favorite part of it, I think, if I had to guess. But all of it falls under that umbrella of shadow work. Totally went off on a tangent there. So the fourth thing that you can do are meditations and visualizations. So there's a lot of guided meditations on YouTube. I did a lot when I was first starting, because when you're not aware of the subconscious, you're not even aware of what it feels like, what it looks like. You don't know if you're in the subconscious or not. Meditations are a great way to start because it will start to resensitize you to looking at the internal world. And what does it look like when you look in the internal world? Because if you can't visually see anything, then what does it look like, right? So meditations help you because you're closing your eyes, you're being guided into the subconscious, and images start to appear, thoughts start to appear, your inner narrative that you didn't even realize, your subconscious voice starts to come up and tell you things. You start to hear it and feel it and see it in your dreams. You start to then see it in the world around you. It's the really trippy thing. But you start to see things in the world around you, and you start to see the world as reflections of you. And that helps you to then move through triggers and heal emotions even faster. So then the internal world and external world stop being so separate and actually become one and the same. And it is really trippy when this starts to happen, but it is really, really cool. So guided meditations are really, really helpful at first, and that's how I started doing it too. Is like, how do you become aware of what you're not aware of? Well, close your eyes, close out the external world, go internal, go within. And it's nice to have something guiding you while you're doing that. And hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it was a very helpful, comprehensive guide to shadow work, how to do it, how to move through it, all that good stuff. So like I said, I have the Diary of an Alchemist series, so if you're interested in watching me do, like, go through my retelling of how I did it all, you can watch that series. You can also watch a newish 6-week series that I did where I detailed going through self-sabotage, and that healing is not linear and it looks crazy, and it's the emotional healing and the shadow work and the limiting beliefs and all this stuff. And that was just like a month or two ago. It was about 2 months ago now. So I have that 6-part series on my channel. You can watch that too, and that's basically almost essentially doing live shadow work. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.